Well, hello, Ian Gray here for episode 173 of the Confident Live Marketing Show. It's been over a week since I last went live, and unfortunately, I don't know whether it's been COVID, but it's been something this week that I've had, but it's good to be back. I'm feeling a lot better. I'm very excited today because I've got a fantastic guest who I've known for a very, very long time. In fact, she was probably one of the first people that I met in the kind of creator world and the business world over 10 years ago. And that is the fabulous Liz Jostes. Welcome to the show, Liz. How are you doing?
I'm great, and I'm happy to be here talking to you.
Yeah, it's great. And I think this is, and we've met each other in person before, and we've spoken before online, but we don't think you've been on one of my shows yet, which is outrageous.
I think that's on you.
I know. It's not your fault. It's totally my fault. But it's great to have you on the show. Where are you dialing in from today?
Memphis, Tennessee.
Lovely part of the world. I've not been to Memphis, but I've been to Tennessee, and I think it's one of my favorite states. It's quite a few years ago now. But anyway, I've been to Nashville. What's the difference between Memphis and Nashville?
A lot.
Okay,
As we say here, and I have to say, I'm from Chicago, so I don't speak like I'm from Tennessee, but so Tennessee is a very wide state for those of you who live across the pond like you do. So Nashville's in the center, all about country music. Memphis is on the west end of the state, and it's all about the home of the birthplace of rock and roll and the home of the blues, because Elvis was born here, and this is where blues music started. So completely different vibe. We're not doing line dancing and having honky tonks here. So it's a very different vibe.
Awesome. Well, I will hopefully get back to Tennessee and visit Memphis in the future.
And I could tell you all the good barbecue, and we can go see Elvis's, gravestone and do all those kinds of fun things when you come. Yeah.
That sounds great. Well, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about sharing your knowledge with video. Now, Liz and I, we met through blogging. So we're going to start talking a little bit about blogging, but then we're going to get into video as well. So I think it's time to get started with the show. I can see we've got some live people joining us. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. If you've just joined us, welcome. My name's Ian. I've got Liz here. We're going to be talking about sharing your knowledge with video. So let us know where in the world you're watching from. If you have got any questions or any thoughts, that'd be good. That'd be amazing. And of course, I should have said, we're also broadcasting to Liz's channels as well. So if you are watching on Liz's channels, hello, I'm this random bloke called Ian. This is the Confident Live Marketing Show. It's great to have you, Liz, on the show. Let's get on with it right now. Hello, my name's Ian Gray, and in this episode of the Confident Live Marketing Show, we're talking about how you can share your knowledge with video. My special guest today is Liz Jostes. I can't wait to get on with the show. Let's do it right now.
Welcome to the Confident Live Marketing Show with Ian Anderson Gray.
Helping you level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of confident live video.
Optimize your mindset and communication, and increase your confidence in front of the camera.
Get confident with the tech and gear.
And get confident with the content and marketing.
Together, we can go live!
Well, hello. Welcome to the show. It's great to be here. It's been, over a week since last went live. But, that's just the way things go. It's been a bit of a mad week. But in today's episode, we're going to be talking about how you can share your knowledge with video. And I've got a special guest today who I can't wait to bring onto the show. It's Liz Jostes. And we've got some great stuff coming up. I'm going to be sharing next time all about Podfest and VidFest that I went to just a couple of weeks ago, showing some of the stuff that I learned there. But I think it's time to bring in Liz. And just to let you know a little bit more about Liz, we met probably just over 10 years ago. She is an online marketing strategist, speaker, and business owner of Eli Rose Social Media. A former corporate marketer, Liz has owned her own firm since 2011 and is certified in SEO, Facebook ads, and social media management. Originally from Chicago and currently living in the land of Dixie, she relishes in the flavor of fried pickles and barbecue, but longs for deep fish and a proper Chicago dog. Welcome to the show, Liz. Great to have you here.
I'm very excited to be here, and now I'm hungry for deep dish pizza.
I know. All that food. I know. You're gonna have to do some translation here because like a lot of that food is quite foreign to me. But I'm always like willing to learn. Fried pickles and barbecue and deep dish pizza, I assume you mean, and Chicago dog. Can you do some translation for me? Let me know all about this.
I didn't know that fried pickles were a thing until we moved to Memphis in June of 2003. So it's literally pickle slices, like dill pickle slices that are breaded and deep fried, and you gotta have a good dipping sauce. So that's fried pickles. And if someone tries to do it as spears, it's just not as good. So Chicago dogs are hot dogs, but what makes them Chicago is this very specific list of toppings that go on top of the Chicago dog. So that's what makes them Chicago. And Chicago has both kinds of pizza, but non-Chicagoans like to joke about the deep dish pizza because it's a very thick crust, and the cheese and like say if you're going to have sausage and mushrooms in it, it's below the sauce. So it's the sauce is on top, and then it's the cheese with all the fixins, and then you have the crust around it. So it's kind of a upside down kind of version of your traditional pizza. So
sounds amazing.
It is. And you need a fork and knife to eat it. I have to say that too.
Definitely.
So you're not picking up a slice like you do regular thin crust pizza.
Well, I do like thin crust, but sometimes you have to like try different things. And I need to go to Chicago. So Thank you, Liz, for being on the show. We've got a problem, unfortunately, technical problem with comments. So I don't know if anyone is watching, if you could leave a comment, let me know because for some reason in Ecamm, it says there was an error loading comments, which is not very helpful. And I've just logged on to Restream and it's saying it is waiting for messages. So I don't know. I will try and...
Maybe comment with your favorite pizza topping. Maybe that would be a good thing that people can comment.
It's working now. It's working now.
Okay.
We've got Katie here. Thank you, Katie. You've saved the day and saying I'm here. Great to see. What kind of pizza do you like, Katie? Are you into pizza? I don't know. What is your favorite pizza, Liz, then? What topping?
Toppings. Well, I like veggies, but I always like to have one kind of meat. So I would do like sausage with onions, mushrooms, green pepper, maybe throw in some garlic and green olives. So
that sounds very, very nice. Right. We need to move on from food because I'm starting to getting hungry. So Chris Pace is watching on LinkedIn. Great to see you.
Hey, Chris. I know Chris.
Oh, great. Awesome. And Katie has moved over to YouTube. We've got somebody watching on Facebook from a group. We can't see your name, unfortunately, because Facebook, if you want us to see your name, go to confident.live/show my name. Confident.live/show my name and give permission, and then we'll know who you are. Leona is watching on LinkedIn saying, hi from Northern Ireland. Talking about cheese. Vegan cheese. Vegan cheese. Do you know, I can't deal with vegan cheese. I like vegan food, but vegan cheese. Maybe there's nice vegan cheese. And Christina is watching on YouTube saying,
Christina, we both know Christina.
Oh yes, hello Christina. I can't see the little photo. Yeah. Hi, Christina. Hope you're doing well.
I told her yesterday, I was like, Ian, I'm going to be on his podcast tomorrow.
Awesome. So. And there's always one being controversial, pineapple on the pizza. So there's always, when we talk about pizza, there's always that question, do you put pineapple on pizza? I'm kind of fairly like middle of the road here. I think whatever floats your boat. But I know
it has to be paired with Canadian bacon, though. You got to just do Hawaiian pizza. Otherwise, pineapple just doesn't make sense with anything else. So That's my opinion, at least.
Well, yeah. Let's move on from controversial stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So we have sorted things out. Chris is saying, "Hi, Liz. I switched from LinkedIn to Facebook. This is much better." Dropped in to say hey to my friend, and Martin Buckland is in the house watching from Toronto. Always awesome to see you. Well, I think we should get on with the main topic of today. But like we met through the power of content. And I remember this very clearly, actually, Liz. I don't know if you know this, but I think it was back in like 2011, 2012. And this is not long after you launched your business. And I launched I launched my business in 2011. It wasn't really a business. It was I just started blogging for fun. And I think, I can't remember exactly, but you commented, or we had an exchange on social media, on our blogs. And that's how we kind of got to know each other. So yeah, how did you get started with blogging? Can you remember how things started and what things were like at the time with the whole world of blogging? Because it was amazing back then.
It really was. And actually, how I got started blogging was before I started blogging for my business. We've relocated a lot and we live hundreds of miles from all of our families. So I started blogging personally. And that's how I learned about WordPress, started teaching myself SEO, started using like the business forms of the social media accounts that were around then. Because, you and I both predate a lot of the stuff, a lot of the platforms that are out there right now. So that's how I first started blogging. So when the business started, I was actually approached by some people who I know in real life because I have that marketing background and I worked in corporate marketing, who started asking me questions to help them with their small businesses in their online marketing. So one woman actually said to me one day, "Hey, you know a lot about this stuff. You should charge and help other small business owners." So that's actually what launched everything. So knowing, having already been blogging for a few years personally, but also having understood WordPress and the importance of having a website, and also the important SEO principles, definitely knew from the beginning that blogging needed to be part of something that was ongoing from a marketing perspective. There's lots of benefits to blogging, and there's a whole bunch of benefits from an SEO perspective, and I won't, veer in that direction too much, but any kind of business really needs to be creating some kind of original content. So blogging obviously is in that written form, but blogging is a way for you to share your expertise and your knowledge so people can see that you know what you're talking about and that you're going to be helpful. They can understand maybe how you would teach or explain something to them, how you approach things. So blogging is a great way to showcase all of your awesomeness. And when you and I first connected, there might have even been like some kind of link back to each other's blog posts, and you get that ping back, and that's how we started connecting way back, a decade or so ago. So that's how I got started blogging, and how I knew that it was going to be something that was going to be essential to growing my business.
You're so right. I think that's what it was. It was one of those pingbacks, and I thought, "Oh, wow, somebody's linked to my blog. What's going on here?" and then I checked you out, and I think I then commented on yours, and that was really exciting. And social media was kind of around then, but it was in its early stages, and in a way,
very early.
Blogs were the blogosphere. That's an old word. I used the word
yes.
blogosphere.
And remember Blogspot on Blogger? Yeah. You could have that free Google blog that used the Blogger tool. Yeah.
Wow, we're getting all nostalgic now. I need some nostalgic music. But that's how we, people got to know each other, and then meeting at conferences and things like that. It was awesome. So I think there's definite power in blogging. I'd love to know from you watching or listening. Do you invest in your blog? Do you have a blog? Do you have a website? Is it WordPress? We're not going to get into kind of any technical stuff today about what the type of website. I always get very excited by WordPress because that's how I kind of started. And one of the co-founders of WordPress I've mentioned on the show before lives just down the road from me, which is really cool. So yeah. So we've got Rhoda Blackwell is in the house. Great to see you, Rhoda.
That's my friend. Hey, Rhoda.
All your friends are here. It's great. And Katie is saying, Katie Simpson saying, I need to publish my blog articles. They are sitting in my drafts folder. Oh dear. Well, maybe Liz, you've got some thoughts on this. I've got overwhelm about making them look attractive. Now, can I just say, before I kind of ask you about this, Kate, Liz, that I had this issue with my blog that I procrastinated and had overwhelmed for actually quite a few years before I launched my blog in 2011. And in the end, I just went with a default theme on WordPress and just like forgot about the way it looked and just did it. And it was really successful. Well, as successful as it could be for an initial blog. So have you got any advice, Liz, for Katie with the overwhelm about making them look attractive? How important is the way they look?
First of all, done is better than perfect. And another thing to keep in mind is we all are much more critical of our own stuff, whether it's if you are making videos or the blog posts that you're writing or how something looks, and anyone else is going to be viewing it or judging it. So, sometimes we can be our own worst enemies. So know too that publishing a blog post, you can always go back and edit it and update it. I've done it for years. I've done it for clients too. So just because it's published and out doesn't mean that it's something that can't be changed going forward. And even if you do play around with like the format of your blog post, what that template is, or if you end up changing, if you are in like WordPress and you change themes, all that stuff is transferable. So nothing is set in stone, but getting those things published and out there, having those new links published on your site that you can then share on social or share in your email newsletters or start demonstrating, your knowledge and expertise, just go ahead and start publishing them. And I'm not sure how many drafts you have, but if you have a bunch of them, I would actually schedule them for future publishing. So you don't just like dump out 10 blog posts at once, go ahead and schedule them like 1 week apart or 2 weeks apart or something. So they can start publishing out in a nice schedule and you don't have this big dump of blog posts and then a long time before anything new publishes.
That's a great tip. And I think that's really for any kind of content, whether it's like, I've seen some people publish their podcast and like 10 episodes have been dumped in one go. And you might want people to binge on a few, but like not like 10 plus. So I think that's great advice. Katie is using Kajabi. Doesn't really matter what you use. Kajabi is a great platform. But just get one published. I want to see one published, Katie, by this weekend. A bit of accountability for you. But I think like we talked about the power of blog posts and the fact that even today I still think they can create that authority. They're great for SEO. But a lot of people are saying that, this was, we met back in 2011. We started blogging. I know you started blogging before that, but a lot of things have changed. And we keep on hearing, we'll talk about video in a bit, but we keep on saying that video that's what we should be doing. Blogs are dead. I think certainly blogs have changed. I find it a little bit depressing that I don't really get very many comments anymore. And the kind of comments that I get are either very low quality or they're spammy. So things have changed. But do you think that blogging or blogs are dead? I assume you think not, but I'd love to know what your view on this is.
Oh, not at all. And as we'll talk more, there's a lot of sort of overlap, how you can use video and blogs together. But blogging, and again, don't want to go too far down the SEO rabbit hole, but I like to say that, if you really want to rank organically and have people find you for the kinds of things that you offer, whether they're products or services, that's how you do it through blogs, because you only have so many pages on your regular static website. But I like to say that think of each blog post published as like a new fishing line tossed in the sea of Google. So the more fishing lines you have in the sea, the more fish you catch. And I'll give you one example. I have a client who I've been blogging a couple times a month for since late 2016. And separately, I don't manage this, but he has had Google ad campaigns running pretty aggressively for at least a few years now. He spends 30 grand a month on those Google ads, and looking at the analytics, he actually gets more organic traffic from those blog posts and the SEO and conversions than he gets from the $30K a month Google ad spend. So how are you going to do that if you're not blogging, because each blog post is a new chance to talk about one specific question, one specific search phrase. Think about every time someone sits down into Google, like what phrase or sentence are they typing into Google? You can address all those, those questions with your blog posts, things that if you've thought about blogging and you're not sure where to start, every single business, it does not matter what industry, every single business has at least 10 or 15 questions that they always get asked. So think about what people ask you when they give you a call, send you an email, walk into your store, whatever the case may be. That's really where you can start. So if you think about those topics that are all relevant and complementary to the businesses, the products that you sell or the services that you offer, that's really where you can start with those topics for blog posts or videos or both. Really, that's a good place to start for any kind of content that you're going to create.
Yeah, so important. And we will come on to videos very shortly, but I think blogs are so important even today. And yes, things have changed. But I agree with you, Liz. The power of blogs is not gone away. And I find that the majority of the traffic on my website are still on my traditional blogs. It's not with the podcast blogs so much, although some are very high traffic, but it's some of the blogs that I spent a lot of time on. And this is what I want to come on to, Liz, because, well, actually, before we do that, I just want to, got some comments here, and then I will bring you on to talk about that. But Katie just says, thank you, great advice. That's really helpful with overwhelm. Hearing I can edit it afterwards if I want. And it's such a simple thing. We forget that. It's not published and then that's it. You can edit it. And
I've not set in stone.
It's not set in stone. In fact, I've actually edited and I've rewritten blog posts. There's
updated the image that's in it. There's all kinds of things you can do after the fact.
So much you can do. This is great from Chris. Thank you, Chris, watching on Facebook. I lead digital marketing at a large multi-state health system called Banner Health. Our blog is essential to our customer acquisition strategy, which is amazing to hear. We use it as an extension of our brand voice. We re-platformed it in late 2019 and have nearly 1 million ranking keywords and average about 35 articles a month this year. That is amazing. Awesome. And Katie is saying, okay, challenge accepted. I'll be checking up on you, Katie.
Yes, I need to hear about it too. Yes.
So thank you, Chris. Thank you, Katie. So I think, this is what I want to come on to next. Blogging, well, creating content is hard. Let's face the facts. Creating blogs, really good quality blogs that resonate and are good for SEO is hard work. And if I look back at the big articles that I've written, I have spent probably weeks and weeks and weeks of content, of planning and creating it as well. And it's a lot of hard work. Is there an easier way to create that content? We're going to come on to video in a bit, but just before we do that, any kind of advice for us creating blogs that really resonate, are really powerful? How do we do that without getting overwhelmed and stressed like Katie was talking about?
Well, I think for you specifically, you need a little asterisk next to you being a blogger because you write mega posts and most people do not write mega posts. So when you say that, you spend weeks and weeks and weeks, I don't know what your average word count is, but you write almost like guides as a blog post. So I want people to understand that your typical blog post does not need to be like an Ian blog post. Ian's in his own special category with that. So you can, and people will debate what the right number of words is because some people say you have to have 2,000 or 3,000 words because they want to talk about what's going to help you rank the most. But in reality, how many people really want to read 2,000 or 3,000 words in a single blog post? So slightly coy, but very true answer is you need to answer whatever the question is that you were being asked. So sure, if you have 200 or 300 words, that's going to be really light and not super useful. But like I said, there isn't necessarily a magic number. It could be 500 to 1,000 words maybe is a more reasonable number that people tend to fall, where you have a proper introduction, proper body, and proper conclusion to whatever your blog post is that you are that you're publishing. Of course, it's going to vary depending on the topic. And everybody has their own writing style. Some people want to write an outline first and then build out from there. Some people feel like I have to start with the introduction and write from there. One thing is, if you get some ideas for a blog post, you can go ahead and start a draft and save that draft. And maybe you're just starting with 3 or 4 bullet points, and you're going to build out those bullet points. And then you're going to go back and do your introduction and your conclusion. Stick that image in at the end, all that interlinking, all that good blog stuff that you have to do to be, just to make it be a proper blog post. I know we're not quite getting to video yet, but I have a client who excels in video. And so we've actually taken his video and then made it into a blog post. So hearing what he's saying, we can gather his thoughts and then put it in sort of a written form. So it's not like a transcription. It's like he gives his thoughts and his ideas and he explains things the way he wants to. And then we take that and put it in a written form. So some of it is going to be your work style and just kind of how your brain works, how your creativity works. Maybe you feel like you're really good at writing in the morning. So if you are going to work on writing a blog post when your brain is fresh, that's good. Sometimes people like to write in the evening. So some of it is going to be figuring out like what's the best fit for you, because that also helps cut down on the overwhelm. So just don't feel like you have to write it from top to bottom, first word to last word, all in one sitting. You can work on it in stages or pieces. You can work on it from drafts and bullet points. You can dump out your ideas on paper or via video and then make it into, a blog later. There's lots of ways to approach it.
Such great advice. I'm so glad I had got you on the show, Liz, because you don't have to start with written word. Like you can start with video. You can even start with like just recording. I've done that sometimes just with audio.
Yes.
Just get in front of your mic and record some thoughts and then use a tool like Descript, convert it into get a transcript or whatever. And then you can then turn it into a blog post.
And I don't use it, but I believe there's actually a free tool within Google, like, part of the Google sort of Drive suite where you can actually just hit record and start talking. So it's not even like people need a paid tool to do something like that.
That's a good tip. Yeah, absolutely. I forgot about that because I use Descript all the time. I forget about all these free tools. And you're right. In Google Docs, there's a transcription tool or dictation tool, and I think Macs and PCs, they have dictation tools built into it. So like, just check it out. And I also feel this is like a bit of a therapy session, Liz, because like I feel
let it all out, Ian. Let it all out.
I feel like with my blogs, this has been my problem. I in my head, I feel that blog posts need to be really big and meaty, and like. I mean, my blog posts are like a short blog post for me is probably 6,000 words, and they go up to like 12,000. And I have to say, for me, those have been the most like successful and most powerful, and the ones that have had the longevity. But that's not to say that all of the blog posts need to be like that. In fact, for most people, I think what you're saying, Liz, you should be creating more frequent, shorter blog posts that are answering a question. Now, I want to ask you about answering questions in a minute, but just to say, Micah Flemons is in the house watching on YouTube. Great to see you, Mike. It's always lovely to see you. Katie is saying, very kind of you to say, Ian's blogs are amazing. And Leona, watching and on LinkedIn, is asking a question. Is it better to publish on your website or a blogging site or both? What's the best place to publish?
So This is a really important question, especially depending on, if you're using some outside firm to sort of manage your website. I'm running into this with a client right now. You want your blog to be on your website, but part of your main domain, not a subdomain. So not blog.yoururl.com. You want it to be your url.com / whatever the blog post is. So it's not, you're missing out on a lot of the goodness that blogging brings to you, even things like strengthening your domain and your domain authority with Google. You want people on your website, since your website is where they'll do business with you. So if you have your blog somewhere else, they're not on your website, they're on your blog site. So it's like you have two different websites that you're maintaining if your blog isn't incorporated on your website and as part of your URL. I know a lot of times people will ask that second part of your question, like specifically about LinkedIn, because people will write blogs and they'll say they want to use like the LinkedIn blog publisher tool. If you're a very prolific writer, you could potentially like alternate that. Maybe you write 1 week on your own site, then 1 week for like LinkedIn, or if you want to also put the same content on LinkedIn, make sure you've published it on your website at least a couple weeks ahead of time, because you don't want to run into a duplicate content issue with Google. So as of right now, the general consensus is if you have, 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time you've published on your website, then you could copy and paste that and put it in like LinkedIn Publisher. Or you could always play it safe and do an introduction, include your image, and then direct people back to your website. But really, if you're creating content, you want the bulk of that content, the focus of that content to be helping you and benefiting you by publishing it on your own business blog.
Great stuff. Thank you. We've got somebody on Facebook saying your blogs are epic, Ian. They're certainly long. They're long. I'll give you that. And I think one thing that you've inspired me today, Liz, is to create shorter content. One kind of craze I've seen on Twitter is this idea of atomic essays, I think they're called, which is creating blog posts in a way that can fit into like an image that you can post on Twitter. And so they're very short. And I think this is something that I want to try and do, is to learn the craft of short blog posts, because the thing with that is you can then bring together 3 or 4 to create a longer blog post. So you could create a listicle, say like 4 reasons why to do this. And so I would love to know, the next question I want to ask you, Liz, is like, how do we come up with content? We want to answer questions of our ideal customer. I mean, that's one of the things that we probably want to do. We want to build our authority. We want to help people. How do we come up with those ideas? We could obviously ask people, but give us some thoughts on that.
Well, another thing outside of, like I was saying, like those frequently asked questions are a great place to start. One thing that any kind of business owner or creator tends to forget is that stuff might seem really obvious to us, but it's because it's what we live and breathe every single day. But, we don't have to have somebody very far removed from us where, they think that we're like geniuses because they don't even have that 101 level foundational understanding of things. And when you do create content, I'll say this more specifically about blogging, but it's generally a good approach if you're creating any kind of series. So like even if you're going to do like a video series, one part of blogging is that when you publish new posts, you also can link to older posts or pages on your website. So it's always a good idea that you have sort of those foundational topics covered, that maybe you're explaining the basis for something, like if you want to think of it as like the 101 level of understanding, because then when you're getting into more involved pieces of content, whether they're blog posts or videos or whatever, you can refer back or link back to that 101 level blog post where you explain those basic concepts. And that also helps too, because that way you don't have to spend this huge chunk of time time on those like intermediate or expert level blog posts explaining, that basic concept, you can just link back to it. So if you, any kind of, because really, even if you're approaching kind of content from what kinds of things are your social posts going to be about, you probably have some general categories for your business. So like for me, if I'm, because I do social media stuff, I also do paid ads, which rolls into social media, but it is kind of its own category. I do SEO, so for example, those would be 3 different categories of topics to potentially write about. So I would kind of think about whatever your business is, think about those main like services or product categories, and kind of help break down, your content from there and build from there. So think of those main buckets of categories. And then I would say like identify what those are, and then think of like, how can I even explain this at a basic level? And then you can sort of shoot off to more specific topics, after that. So I don't know. Does that answer the question without getting too granular?
Yeah, I
think you can really go deep with the planning of your content topic. So
absolutely, we could do a whole session on this, a whole show on this. But yeah, you said lots of things there that I want to kind of pick up on. The first thing is so true, and that is we know. On our particular area of expertise, we obviously know a lot, and sometimes we can feel that. Well, I can't possibly talk about that. That's too easy. Right. Everyone knows about that.
Too basic.
It's too basic. And we forget how much we know sometimes. I think we need to be reminded of that. So, like, ask people, ask your target audience, like, what do you want to know about? And you might be really surprised. Like, it's actually really basic. I have this problem. And also, like, I love the kind of super technical stuff, and I forget that not everyone is necessarily going to be like wanting that. So I think that's important. And I also love the idea of breaking it down into those categories. And like WordPress has this if I'm going to use a posh word now, taxonomy, it's called it, categories of different. So you can have these like different themes.
You promise not to get too technical, yeah.
I know. Like, oh, just shoot me now. But yeah, and with this show, we're going to move on to video content now. I have 3 themes. So we talk about either the tech and the gear, we talk about the confidence and mindset, or the content and marketing. And today we're talking more about the content and marketing. That's the theme. So let's move on and talk about videos. We've said that blogs are certainly not dead. They may have changed, but why should we also be adopting video? You're clearly like in the world of blogs and SEO, but I do know that you do embrace video, Liz, as well. So why should we also be thinking about video?
Well, there's one element of just sort of like consumer trends that we need to be aware of. Just like kind of like we're podcasting now because podcasting is, a big growing field, right? So, social, because again, we're the OGs in this space. We've seen just about every platform except video as some format, as one of their media formats. I mean, it hasn't even been that long ago when LinkedIn finally allowed video, well, even just pre-recorded uploaded video, right? I mean, you can put videos on Pinterest. YouTube is the second biggest search engine and owned by Google, which I know I'm not trying to get too back into the SEO, but that all is a big thing. I mean, Google, videos from YouTube show up in Google search results. So video is increasing in all the places that you can find it. And it is one way that people like to consume content. And if we are creating, like not everybody's going to be a reader, just like not everybody's going to listen to podcasts / audiobooks, but not everybody's going to watch videos, but different people like different things. So because video is just so widely accepted now, it's really good because if you are taking the time to record a video, there are so many uses for it. So it's not like you're putting in all this effort to do it and you're just going to use it in like a single social post on one platform. There's so many ways to repurpose one single video now. So you get so much bang for your buck.
Definitely. And like this video is a case in point because from this, I'll be creating little video snippets. and it's a podcast, it's video as well. And of course, we could talk about the whole like impact and authority that we get through video. The fact that like on a blog, we don't really get to know the person as much as we do on video. We can maybe get a bit of the personality, but like on this video now, you're getting to know the real, well, maybe getting towards knowing the real Ian and the real Liz. I mean,
we know you're a crazy bloke or whatever you called yourself at the beginning.
Exactly. Thank you. So how about live video? How much do you invest in live video? Is this something that you've thought about? And why do you think we should or should not be thinking about live video?
So I think live video definitely has its place. I think for this, and since obviously we're talking to people too that, there's a lot of hesitancy because I guess that's the confident part, right? Of your confident live. There's a lot of hesitancy to get in front of the camera. So just working with clients over the years too, it's like, if I can get them to do video, that's a huge step. So it's like, if they could at least get comfortable with pre-recorded video, then maybe go up and scale that up to live. Of course, if you're at some kind of event or you're doing something that's in the moment that's very timely, it's naturally going to be live. If you're going to go live on Instagram or live on Facebook, that maybe you need to show something that's very timely that's happening. People, what I find in general, are more comfortable with lives if they don't have to be in it. But there's all kinds of ways that even businesses can like take live video, but it's not necessarily a person in front of the camera. So live video is, there's definitely a place for it. And I think it's great. And, like when you have a live show like this, that you're talking about whatever those matters are in hand in that very moment. But if people are sitting here and they're thinking, I don't even know that I can get in front of a camera, then I would say, well, just start with pre-recorded, because a lot of times I find people feel like, if they want to record something 3 or 4 times before they feel like, okay, well, version 4 is like good enough to post. I don't want people to be deterred from doing video in general, because they feel it has to be live. So
yeah, I think you're right, and I think we're all different, and we all have different experiences. I've mentioned this many times on the show before. I think I would have described myself as the reluctant live video guy, because it was very scary for me. But the reason why I still adopt live video, or one of the big reasons for me, yes, I love the community aspects of it. I love the spontaneity sometimes of these shows, which we wouldn't get on like pre-recorded video. And the fact that what you're seeing now is unedited and raw, and sometimes I stumble over my words and I say silly things, which we'd want to cut out. And actually there's a lot of value in that. The big reason for me is, as a recovering perfectionist, I get my content done if it is live, because I knew at 4 p.m. my time today, I was going to go live, and I had a guest, Liz, coming on the show. I can't get out of this. It's scheduled everywhere. I have to do it, and at the end of it, that's like an hour of my time, just a little bit over an hour of my time. I've created this content that I can then turn into all these other places. But it is hard, that initial stage. One thing that I think, I'm not going to use the word, but over the last couple of years have been challenging for many of us, I think it has like pushed us towards video a little bit more. And I think people have become a little bit more confident in front of the camera. And so I'm hoping that has allowed people to embrace more about live video and video in general. And that's what this show is all about. So Liz, I'd love to know a little bit more about your process. We've talked about starting with blogs. We've maybe haven't talked so much about then turning them into video. But let's talk about how we can like start with blogs, turn them into video, how we can start with, say, live video or video, and then turn that into blogs, or put our, how can we use all of this different type of content? I'd love to know a little bit about what you do in your website, and also how you help your clients as well.
Yeah. So I've done plenty of live videos as well as pre-recorded. So I have no problem, getting up in front of a camera. That does not stress me out at all. So I'm still like 2 thumbs up for live video. So I think there's a few ways to approach it, and some of it is going to be a factor of maybe what's Potentially good for your style, but sometimes it's even like a time management thing. I think Ian brought up great points when he said, like, when you're doing live and you set it up and you scheduled it, it holds you accountable and you have to get it done. For me, regardless if it's live or I record a bunch of videos at once, because I've just natively been a blogger for so many years, and I think this is probably a good just tip in general, because I think that when anyone's talking about creating content, whether it's podcasts, videos, photos, even, or blogs, you tend to think like, okay, I need to do one more thing, but it's not like the stuff you're talking about, just to say it very generally, needs to be all different and all brand new. You can be putting out that same information, sharing that same expertise, sharing those same tips, just in a different format. So if you're like me and you have, 11 years of blogging, you don't need to recreate the wheel. You can use that blog post information to create a video for each blog post. And so for me, what I usually do is like, I'll review a blog post, because again, I wrote it, so I know the information, just like how you all would do. We live and breathe this stuff, right? Regardless of what your industry is, you don't really need to study up on it. So what I'll do is review the blog post, and I just get a little piece of paper and I write like a few bullet points just as prompts, so that I don't forget something, halfway through. Or if it's some kind of blog post where you're saying like there's, 4 tips to do something or 5 reasons why, you don't want to be halfway through your live video and you're like, what was number 4? I can't remember. So I just write those little prompts, those little notes to myself before I record a video, whether it's live or not. So for you, it might be something different. You might want to write a little bit more detail. I would discourage, don't read your blog post or don't feel you have to write a script. It's much more natural if you're just talking. Like, people can tell if you're reading like a word for word thing. So don't worry about doing that. I mean, your stuff, this is your business. This is your baby. You are the expert. So don't feel like you have to have a full script. So for me, I would revisit blog posts and make those little notes and record. I've done it where I've gone live, and then immediately after going live, because I already am all set up, I'll record more videos. So it could also be like a workflow thing. For me, normally, I don't blow dry my hair and put on makeup. So if I'm doing it, I'm getting some videos out of it. I mean, I'm just being honest. So it might even be that you batch create. And batch creation is good for any kind of workflow. If you're making graphics, if you're taking pictures, batch creation is awesome. So if you are like in the groove, or you set up your little recording studio, or you have like the dog, like I do right now, quietly away somewhere else in the house, so you're not interrupted with barks. If you can set aside a time, it might be best that you can record 3 or 4 or 5 videos at once, and then kind of do what we said earlier, where you are scheduling those for future publishing. I mean, I know YouTube will let you schedule even you can upload them, get it all optimized, your description, set in your playlist, all that stuff. Just like how Facebook does, or Instagram, if you want to upload a video that you've already recorded, you can schedule it for future publishing. So for me, I usually do, the video version of the blog post. So then if you do have it, for example, on YouTube, you can reference your blog post in the description to send people back to your site. You can also embed that video, and you can do the same thing with the Facebook video. You can embed a Facebook video too over on your blog post. When you have the blog post to the YouTube thing, that's a good SEO kind of roundabout connection there, because Google likes that. But it could be that, somebody finds your blog post, but they prefer to watch it, or they find you on YouTube, which obviously if you're in YouTube, you're there to watch videos, but they might want to check out more. And by going out over to your business website, to your blog. So you can So like say if you've just done a bunch of videos, maybe you're using that video to then turn into a blog post, not necessarily a transcription, but if you've already gotten all those ideas out, then you're using that as sort of your outline, kind of like what we talked about earlier, to then go ahead and write that blog post. So there's a lot of like interconnectivity when you are creating videos, and you're also a blogger, like Ian and I have been for a very long time.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that. And it's interesting. We've talked a lot on the show about starting with video and then turning that into a blog post. But like, as Katie is saying here, she's saying that's so interesting, starting with the blog and then taking that into a live video or video rather than the other way around. And she says, yes, get ready and then do tons of videos at once. And actually, that's one thing that you can't do with live video is you can't really batch it. I mean, well, you could, but I mean, you'd be a complete nutcase to do so. So your best, you could turn a live video into lots of snippets or into lots of blog posts potentially.
Yes.
But we're talking here about starting with a blog, turning that into a video, and then I love the idea of then embedding it back in and then linking. Really important. This is one thing that I sometimes forget to do is link back on the YouTube video itself in the description, link back to your blog post, because hopefully you'll get some traffic that way. And actually, if you look at your Google Analytics, if you have Google Analytics, you can see where's the traffic coming from. And actually, quite a lot of my traffic does come from YouTube, which is really interesting. So we're getting towards the end of the show. We could spend a whole episode on the next question I'm going to ask you, Liz. So
okay, I'm bracing myself.
But this is the whole area of promotion. So we've created our blog, we've put our video on there, and we've published it to the world, and we get like nothing, particularly if we've just started on our blog. And you could say this with anything. It's the same with live video. It's the same with podcast. It can take time. And if I look back, the first probably 3 or 4 blog posts that I created, there was nothing. And then I think like the 4th or 5th one that I did, there was nothing for probably a few months. And then it started to build up and it then went completely mad. And I actually look back and I think, what did I do? I don't know that I know what I did. But I think nowadays, knowing, we've been in this business for a long time, we've come up with some more kind of strategic ways of promoting our blog posts and our videos as well. So I'd love to know from you, Liz, what is it that you do, and what is it that you recommend that your clients do to get their content out to the world?
Well, I think one thing that's just a good thought in general, because it really is about the long game, right? Like if you're publishing a blog post, you want that link to be useful for a long time to come. And, people have videos on their YouTube channels that get views, just like how you mentioned the blog post. Same with me. Like I can have a blog post that was written in 2015 that I'm still getting great traffic on. So one thing if you're going to kind of go through the trouble, right, of, making a video or writing a blog post, the more evergreen the nature of the content is, that's going to help a lot too. So if you are blogging about some kind of like event in town or a promotion you're doing or a contest you're running or a sale, or doing videos about something that's like the specific event, essentially, no one's going to be looking for that later on. So, you can have written a blog post years ago or published a video years ago that if it's something that people are still searching Google for or whatever their search engine, or they're actually on YouTube and they're looking for that topic, they can still find that. So, one big thing is what it is that you are making that piece of content about, because that's going to really influence things. I would say too, once you've created something, it's not like you can only share it once or post it once, whether it's the blog post or the video. And by that, I mean like sharing it on your social channels. So if you've shared a video once, it's not like you can't, again, keep publishing that in the future, not obviously next week, but, depending on how frequently you publish, it could be something that after 6 months or 9 months, you feel like you can go ahead and share again. Same thing for the blog posts. So if you're putting, creating this quality content and it's pretty evergreen, meaning it's pretty timeless, it spans the years, don't think that just because you shared it to Facebook once or LinkedIn once or shared a link in your email newsletter once that it's a one and done thing. Understand that you can keep reposting that. And obviously, the better you optimize something for search, whether it's, YouTube platform search or your individual blog posts for Google search, the more optimization that you learn about how to implement that on your site, that really increases people finding it on whatever platform it is that's shared on.
Definitely, we could again do a whole show on SEO. I think that the work really is right at the start when you create the title and the blog post itself. Is it something that people are really interested in? Is it a question that people really need answered that you're answering? Are you doing it in a way that other people aren't? Are you doing it in a more helpful way that helps you stand out? It's all those things I think are really important. But yeah, share it out as well. Do you think that it's still that, how we met was through linking? So you linked to my website. I think I linked to a few of your websites. Do you think that's still important? I assume it is, because the sheer number of emails I get every single day from random people saying, "Oh, I noticed you wrote this blog post about blah 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 blah. We've written a post about this. Would you mind linking to it?" And it really annoys me, because I think it's down to the power of relationships. We got to know each other, and then I was much more likely to link to your blogs because I knew you and I really respected you and and I thought your content was amazing. So any thoughts on that? Do you think that still matters today?
Well, just since you brought that up, you don't want to be doing link exchanges or paid links. That's a bad thing. Google does not like that, and it will penalize your site. So don't do that. Google likes to say that you need to earn that link. So Google does like it if other people link to your stuff, because if someone links to you naturally, without it being a paid situation, Google takes it as a sign, as like, that's quality content. So the better content you put out there, and the more helpful content and thorough content, not necessarily 6,000 to 10,000 words, but you should like sort of naturally earn those links. And it could even be that someone who's in your social circles, reads it and, because you shared it on like LinkedIn, like Chris now might find something to do with Ian because, of this whole connection that happens, because there's still that whole, connecting through social media and building those relationships in other ways, that whole like trust factor that Ian referenced. So the general belief is the better quality content, the higher quality, that when people find it and they see the quality there, they will want to link back to it because they'll consider it a good resource. So it's always great to get those link backs, but you want to actually earn those links and not do those paid link swaps.
Please, for all that is good in the world. I totally agree with you. Now, we're almost out of time, but Katie's posted a question here that's got me all nostalgic again, because the thing is, like, we can... so like if I go to your YouTube channel, Liz, and I really love your content, I can subscribe. If you have a podcast, I can, well, it's not called subscribe anymore. I think it's called follow. But I can like your Facebook page. But when it comes to your blog, Katie is asking, how do people become fans of your blog? Is there a way of them subscribing? So what are your thoughts on this, Liz?
I'm actually surprised over time how many people have eliminated that possibility from their sites. It's really unfortunate. I don't know. I still have it. I actually just finally converted over to that feed over to MailChimp because here's old school for you. Feedburner. Remember, you could have Feedburner signups that you could have the little widget in your footer or your sidebar where people could subscribe just to get new blog posts in your email. So if people do have a blog and they have an email subscription, some kind of software, you can set it up just very loosely. I'm just saying this. You can set it up so that people can subscribe or choose to subscribe to new blog posts. I know some people will use some kind of RSS reader if they do read a lot of, news from a lot of news sources. I don't personally use that, so I don't really have names to recommend for that. But it's basically every blog has a feed, and you need to get that feed subscription, and then you would be notified of new blog posts for the people who the blogs you want to follow.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I think email's probably the easiest way to do it. But most people, well, everyone really knows how to use email. So that's probably the easiest way. And you're right, Liz, you know, every blog has this feed. It's called an RSS feed. You probably don't even know it's there. And people can subscribe to it. I don't really use it anymore, but I feel bad. I use a tool called Feedly, which is kind of like when Google Reader kind of stopped working, it moved over to Feedly, and so you can do that, and you could subscribe to your blogs that way, all the blogs that you like. But probably I would just, like you say, Liz, is just offer a way for people to subscribe via email and do it that way. Well, we're out of time, Liz. Thank you so much. I've just thoroughly enjoyed chatting to you, Liz. I just feel like
this was great. Thank you for having me. We covered a lot of good stuff.
I know. Why haven't we done this? We need to do do this more often.
And we've relived the OG days too. So it was a nice memory lane walk.
It's lovely. It is lovely. So if people want to find out more about you, Liz, you have your website, which is elirose.com. That's ELIROSE.com. So you can, it's all about helping small businesses grow online. The blog is obviously amazing here. There's so much great content here. And of course, if you want some help when it comes to content and social media and SEO, Liz does it all. And she, as you can tell, she is a true expert on this. And so definitely get in touch with Liz through elirose.com. But where else can people follow you? I assume you're across all, well, I know this. I don't know why I assume you're across all the socials. So where do you prefer to hang out?
Well, personally, it's just my name, Liz Jostis, but I have business accounts on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, which would be Eli Rose or Eli Rose Social Media, one of, some version of that. So
there's a search box in all of these places, and you just search for Liz's name or Eli Rose and you'll find her there. And do say that you found her through Confident Live Marketing. Thank you, Liz. It's been awesome. It's been so much fun chatting to you today, chatting with you, and we'll have to do it again. Thanks, Liz.
Sounds great. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
It's been great. Well, thank you so much for plugging us into your ears if you're listening to the podcast comes out every single Friday. If you go to iag.me/podcast, you can find out all about that, and you can follow that. And of course, the live show is usually every Tuesday and Thursday, although sometimes I have some time off. So you can find out, we basically broadcast everywhere: Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter as well. So thank you so much for watching. I can see somebody on Facebook saying, great info, guys. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate that. Well, that's it for this week. And until next time, I encourage you to level up your impact, authority, and profits to the power of Confident Live Video. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks for watching the Confident Live Marketing Show with Ian Anderson Gray.
Make sure you subscribe at iag.me/podcast so you can continue to level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of live video.
And until next time,
Toodaloo.